Ugh, it's gonna be one of those days. Fix my mic. No, that was a bit. I was cracking open an energy drink. It was supposed to be ear rape loud. I have so many thoughts, but I don't know how I'm gonna quantify them all in such a beautiful, tight-knit package. So we're gonna be doing it at the same time as Anime LARP. And by Anime LARP, I mean Blue Protocol. Because, state of Twitter, state of YouTube, state of the internet. I've got okay, they're not hot takes, because I think that they're like any normal person would have this opinion, but I repeatedly find myself surprised as to the lack of normalcy online. All right. We're about to switch over. And Molio, no, I'm not going to play Pathways. Not because I don't want to, but because everybody I know that's playing Pathways right now is being railed 5 ways to Sunday over it. Hold on. There we go. No, like, genuinely, anybody that I know who's playing Pathways is getting, like, copyright claimed left, right, and center. Like, it is not worth it. It is not worth it. I don't want that strike on my channel. But to be fair, from what I've seen of the gameplay, it isn't interesting anyway. Like, I mean, it's interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, like, it is interesting, but it's not, like, worth getting a demerit in the YouTube system over. It'd be better to just, like, talk about it. Yeah. But hey, yes, boss is here. Welcome, newbie, to my channel. Hold on, wait. I need something kind of like this as a background. That's a good idea. Welcome, creatures. Anyway, no, it's oops. don't notice that. No, I've had some thoughts the last week looking at social media as a whole, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, everything. Especially at some content creators and some VTweeters. It's been bothering me. As somebody who sometimes skirts on the political. Like, I don't shy away from that kind of thing myself, personally. But I've seen some hot takes the last little while that actually bother me more than I care to admit. Hold on, what's going on here? I'll get rid of that. So, hey boss, how you doing? Can we get a smoke? Yeah, no, it's all for me. Oh, 1 second, let me just change the output. It's a little loud. But like, for example, there's some tension going on down on Earth, down in the US, for any multitude of reasons at any given moment. But very specifically, there's a trend of non-political creators loudly debuting their political affiliations. Now, is it their right to do that? Sure. But those who are not... Oh.
Hello, Knife here, looking very demure and fertile despite being barren and worthless.
We're really gonna start off this way? Alright, I see how it is. Fine. Hi, red hair across. No, people are debuting their political affiliations, which is their right, but what's more interesting than that are the people who aren't, or the people who are purposefully, you know, doing their best not to and getting dragged for not openly stating as such. It's kind of like people want to know what team they're playing for when they don't realize that they're playing a different game. You know? Like, there's a horse VTuber, Tomoe, whose whole shtick is that she is a patriotic American horse. The joke is often in the community that she's like a government plant, or that she's a military plant, you know. Now, I don't think she is, but that doesn't matter. Her content itself is very typical VTuber content, and it's not hyper-political. People were ragging on her for not openly having a stance. As if, like, she owes them a stance because she is the America VTuber. I don't think that's the case. She never built her platform on making discussion about that type of thing. And I don't think that that should be, like, a requirement. But apparently this is a really hot take, because if you say, I don't think the silly America horse needs to talk about every American political discourse that comes into fray. Like, I saying that is apparently the equivalent of being pro-Nazi or something. Like, no. That's like saying you want Barney to talk about the immigration, right? Or you want Barney to talk about welfare and class inequality. When Barney's role isn't to cover those things. Barney's role is to teach shapes, colors, and animals. right? Like, there are places for certain things, right? And I think that sometimes crossover is cool, but being mad that every single thing isn't talking about every single thing all the time is a gross misunderstanding as to how the world works. Protect Tomoe at all costs. Oh, yeah. They probably had Barney talk about that already. I mean, maybe new gen Barney, sure. But you get what I'm saying, right? You do nothing and people still get mad, pretty much. And I think part of the reason why is because people have become very, like, what's it called? They want to be perfectly distilled individuals. They want to be entirely on their team and to not be questioned, right? So their content consumption reflects, you know, their sensibilities. So they don't want to accidentally support somebody that has different values than them. So everybody has to have a value, and it has to be theirs. So a system that supports people that don't openly talk about their political affiliation or their value systems is useless to the person that wants to virtue signal. Hold on, I gotta press X to skip. Ariana should be connected? Absolutely. Hold on, I gotta kill these goblins real quick, guys. But yeah, no, it's just like, for what reason it should be required? If she requested, you know, people's thoughts and opinions, sure. But just because half of Twitter is actively making open statements about different immigration practices or different states of the world where they live, that doesn't mean that those who don't make those statements are less valuable individuals or that they're anti or pro something. That just means that's not what their content is about. It's not what they're there for. I'm all for political VTubers. I think that they're incredibly valuable. But I think everybody having to be political is the downfall of EN VTubing. Quite genuinely. Like, I think it's ruining English VTubing in its entirety. There's a reason why in JP or other language VTubing even, like politics are one of those things that just is not covered. It's just not acceptable to really dive into as like a mainstay topic. Like, people touch it all the time. It's human nature to talk about politics. But, like, there is no, to my knowledge, like, culture of political VTubers in Japan. And any political VTubers that are there are outliers. They're a rarity. Whereas, it almost feels like to me that English VTubing is dissolving really quickly into non-political is unacceptable and everybody needs to pick a team. Everybody needs to pick a side and they need to, when the time is right, say the right words. Because if you don't say the right words in front of your audience, then clearly you just don't care. Clearly you're an amoral asshole. Clearly this, clearly that. It's awesome because Japan has harsh slander laws. Isn't there a VTuber politician in JP? Again, like I said, any political VTubers in Japan are outliers. It's not a culture thing. I mean, aren't they just following what the algorithm wants? I think algorithmically there is partial blame here, but I also just think it is English culture in general. British, American, Canadian, any of those English, you know, mainstays on Earth. It's outside of the VTuber space as well. become increasingly hostile. I think ever since 2020. But before then, absolutely. But I think 2020 especially, it turned even the staunchest of quiet people into zealots. There's also the issue of what counts as non-political, because in a way, nothing, because everything is. Pretty much. Like, we must define what it means to be political for it to make sense. I follow VTubers that have zero political values presented. It's fine for me if they have different values, but the moment their content turns into their political beliefs, I'm unfollowing them. Well, I mean, like, I think we should kill all natives from Dakota. I mean, that's not political. I think that's just the objective truth that Chiron is better than every other, you know, place in Pharos. But aside from that, like, it's not my job to speak on Earth values. It's not my job to speak on any sorts of things. Like, I can have opinions, but that isn't the entirety of what I do here, you know? There are places for that. But, for example, like, I feel like if somebody was clipping me right now and they put me on Twitter, I'd be dragged to death because I'm not going, I don't like ice in my water. That was a virtue signal that I've been seeing for days. A very easy way for people to signal a method of political support, right? And if people weren't posting stuff like that, they're assumed to be evil monsters. Or, if you were posting that, you were assumed to be the most irritating person. It's just like, there's no winning, no matter what you do. And at some point, you need to realize that the only way to win is to not play. You need to stop playing that game. Sure, the algorithm, like, rewards people that are leaning into chud tendencies? And that's not a value judgment on chud tendencies. That is entirely because more normies are infiltrating the scene, and more normies are chuds. Like, people want what they see reflected, right? So people are feeling in the world more, like, politically incentivized. And so they're going to seek politically incentivized content. And thus, the algorithm rewards it when more is created. And when more is created, people develop further into those notions, and it's an endless feedback loop, and the only way to break out of it is to not play. But it's a bit impossible, because if you break out of it and you don't play, all of a sudden you're now still playing, but now you're on the evil team. The only way to win is to actually win, pretty much. People like to throw the weight of their beliefs around, creating a new normal for the unattentive. The default response is to be expected and repeated in pleasant company, pretty much.
People rarely have any real opinions nowadays due to the circumstances of our modern world, due to overstimulation via media, and people get defensive over things that were pavloved into them.
Pretty much. It doesn't help that AI has totally disrupted people's ability to actually figure out what's going on. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing here. Like, people's ability to self-conjugate has totally atrophied. I mean, even to a degree, like, I'm having trouble these days, you know? The poisoning from social media overconsumption. And overconsumption has become like a stupid buzzword, but I mean, it is the word that matters in this scenario. The damage it's done to everybody's brains, I don't think it's irreversible, but I do think that if people are lacking self-awareness and they're not trying to catch themselves, they will fall for the trap every single time, because a main priority is to distract from their day-to-day life. Hey, it's a quill. I think a character is supposed to have spawned here. I think there was supposed to be a child on screen. It's better to try and look for friends than to look for enemies. I'll put it this way. Political discourse used to be... Okay, this is gonna sound real weird, but political discourse used to... Okay, actually, I'll let your super go
Worrying
first.
about what normies think is like worrying about what NPCs think about you jumping everywhere in a video game. Just do what you want.
No, because what normies think can have real consequences on your life. No, I'd say political discourse has evolved throughout the centuries, but at least in my lifetime and the lifetime of my most recent forefathers, political discourse used to have a masculine feel to it. Now, what does that mean? What do you mean politics are female now and they were male then? Is that sexist? No, I mean this in the way that, like, friendships are. Hear me out. Male friendships are often characterized by aggression. Physical, social. Go to a bar with a male friend as a guy, and you guys are constantly ribbing each other. You're shooting the shit, you're poking at each other, you're insulting each other, you're slandering, yeah, roughhousing. But then you turn around and you hear somebody else talking shit about the guy that you were just ribbing with, and you get in a fist fight because you want to protect the honor of the guy you were ribbing, right? Or you insult him to his face, and then you turn around, and then you go, man, that was the best person. That's my best friend. I love him. He's so talented. He's the greatest. And then you turn around, and then you say, fuck you, bozo. I hate you, and I hope that you disintegrate. And then you turn back around, and behind his back, you're like, yeah, no, he's so sweet, and da-da-da-da-da. Am I wrong for saying that politics used to feel like that? Whereas now, politics feels like female friendships. Female friendships are often characterized by, to their faces, like, oh, I gotta uplift you, I love you, you're so sweet, and you could do nothing wrong, you're so talented, here, let's do this together, hee hee hee, this is great, this is fun, and then turning around and going, oh, that bitch has so many problems, I hate her. Right? Like, am I wrong for saying politics feels like that now? Because I feel like, again, like, I see that on Twitter, and that's, like, the mindset. Literally, with my boss, I'll call him everything you can imagine and threaten him, and then I'll tell everyone else he's probably the best boss I've ever had. Yeah, because it's like, I don't know. I have people call me, like, heavily autistic because I very often...
But what if I just crave inhuman levels of I0_lens?
You can say violence here, it's fine. But if I crave inhuman levels of violence, well, then you're based. No. I'm often called autistic because I get along really well with guys. Because I have very masculine friendships, where I, too, am constantly ribbing and poking and calling them every bad name under the sun. And now, I can't physically get violent with my male friends because then they suffer the consequences and I don't. But, like, pretty much, you know, that. I've had to really train myself to understand and be able to properly form female friendships because I'm so used to masculine methods of friendship. And sometimes other females, you know, do appreciate a good, solid, masculine friendship. But people who say that there's not differences between the sexes, at a fundamental base level, don't... They haven't interacted with enough people in their life. YouTube was preventing me? I see. We stopped understanding that both sides actually want to improve things for the better, and that led to respect for your... And that led to respect for your adversary as well. Nowadays, it's all about winning. My father, the Duke, before... Well, the Count, the Duke, he had like 5 different titles, and he earned none of them! But... my father, Mr. Sable, he had a saying, because I'd complain all the time about how, like, my education in, my education outside of Chiron, like, oh, it's so useless. My teachers don't know anything. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to listen. There's no point. I'm wasting my time. I'm just going to doodle during my studies. And he would say to me, even bad teachers... Oh.
Katya is the tomboy childhood friend that sits in the cuck chair.
The cuck chair? Kill yourself. No, he would say to me, even really bad teachers, if they waste your whole year, every single person has at least one valuable thing that they can say. One valuable thing. And if you're not paying attention 100% of the time, you will miss the one valuable thing that they've said in their entire life. And thus you have now wasted your whole school year. It doesn't matter if you don't like the person, if the thing that they're saying is the stupidest thing in the whole world, eventually they'll say one thing that is worthwhile and valuable. And if you're too busy with your nose up in the air, knowing that you're better than them, regardless of whether or not it's true, you will miss the only valuable thing that they have to say. And thus you are no better than they are. So, I think about that when I look at current political discourse in the world. Because it's no longer we listen to what's going on regardless of what we believe. And now it's we only listen to what we believe. And when my side slowly changes, morphs and erodes beyond recognition, doesn't matter because that's what I'm supposed to believe. And if I change, then I'm a bad person. I have to stick with my team, my way or the highway. Enlightened centrist type opinion. No, you can still, like, pick and choose where you stand in the world, but you actually need to pick it actively, you know? A lot of people don't pick actively, they pick passively, based on surface level opinions, or the opinions of their friends, or the opinions of the people that they want to make happy, or the opinions of their employers. And, you know, 1 or 2 people that operate like that don't damage a system. But when that's how you operate, but also how your friends operate and how your employers operate, when that's how everyone operates, based on the opinions of others, then nobody actually has an opinion. The only opinion that ends up... Did I just get one-shotted? I just got one-shotted, okay. But yes.
Solve all conflicts like in G Gundam, Giant Mecha Martial Arts Tournament.
Lamau. No, it's, where was I going with this? If you form your opinions lightly based around what sounds good, you fail to realize that you are now in a space where everybody has been conditioned to form their opinions that way. So you're not taking the easy way out. you are actually damaging yourself and the people around you by not challenging your own beliefs and challenging the beliefs of those around you. If people truly care about you and people really want you around, as long as you're not actively trying to hurt them or damage them, it's really healthy and kind to do such. And if the person matters enough to you, and you matter enough to them, then challenging each other for the better, regardless of what you believe, will make both of you better people in the end. Again, it's a masculine friendship kind of mindset. Why is this goat so high level? I got mixed feelings. 90% of my opinion is demanding of means from creators is typically abusive. 10% understands though because they apolitically in some niches create who am I supporting anxiety. Well, I think that's a very simple thing to, you know, cope with, personally. If I find out through other means that the person I've supported, you know, I don't agree with, then I just stop supporting them and I move on with my life. Would I be disappointed? Sure. I feel most people are. But making it very big and dramatic and like a betrayal of everything you've ever known, is immature. And I think it's an insult to your own intelligence. Like, I watched a lot of Bill Nye the Science Guy growing up. And he was totally apolitical to me. I didn't know anything about how he felt about the state of the world or politics, and I didn't care about how he felt, right? Me and a bunch of people I knew just didn't care because funny Bill Nye the Science Guy said the thing and he taught science. After growing up, we find his personal socials and we find out that he has a political stance, and it's a very strong one. Now, I don't mind or care because I only watched him for Bill Nye the Science Guy. I didn't watch him for Will Stan Political Man. But I know a lot of people that immediately were disappointed, turned off, and they never wanted to... I just got my ass grasped by a goat! Fine, whatever. But I know a lot of people that immediately went, I can never watch Bill Nye the Science Guy again because I've been betrayed.
Politics then, how do we spend this money for the common good? Versus now who gets to loot the treasury for their team and humiliate their enemies?
Politics now is like Stranova. Politics now is like, is an FPS shooter game. Politics is esports. But like, if I had, like, let's say I was watching Blue's Clues, and I found out that Steve supported something in his real life off camera that I didn't like. It might damage, you know, my view of the nostalgia I had for the thing before, but ultimately, what he believes is none of my business, and it has no real world lasting effect on what I do with my day-to-day life, because he never injected that politics into Blue's Clues. Bill Nye never injected his politics into Bill Nye the Science Guy. So, you actually have to be mature and not treat individuals as if a piece of them is the, like, a piece of them is the sum of their whole, you know? Now, there's some people that like to sneak politics into their thing, and then when it's revealed that it was political all along, it makes more sense, and that's a discussion that should be had. I feel like sneaking political viewpoints into something, pretending it's not, that's a different conversation to be had. But I think a political person creating apolitical content shouldn't be villainized, you know? I think everybody should have the right to decide when and where their personal opinions get injected into what they do. Bill and I did. Jerome, I'm just like trying to find an example and I can't really think of much right now. Hi Katya, hi Nico.
I grew up around extremely woke people. They told me I was a Nazi because I didn't talk about politics, and openly discuss death camp logistics.
You see, they're unreasonable for the first part. The second part, you were probably like... you were taking the piss out of them. So they're going to insult you for taking the piss out of them. Typically, people don't talk about death camp logistics because that's seen as Holocaust denying. Being apolitical and then Holocaust denying is going to have you labeled as a Nazi even by non-woke people. Because that is typically how people categorize things. It doesn't matter what you self-identify as. And you're smart enough to know that. Soviets are into death camp logistics too? Yeah, no, just... Why would you poke the bear with a 10-foot clown pole is my thing, right? Like,
what has changed the most over time that I see is opinions are no longer based on facts. So many opinions are beyond debate. My opinion is correct because it exists. If you don't agree, you are evil.
yeah, again, politics is... I feel so weird saying politics has become female. But again, male friendships, female friendships. Again, it's when a guy comes to you with a problem and says, "Hey, my life is miserable and I have this problem. Things suck."
Oh no, as in I'd walk down the hall and they'd be talking about where are we gonna put the camps when we are in charge. Got jobs in government and NGOs.
I don't even know what you're talking about at this point. Anyway. No, there's, man, I was saying something. I had a point. Don't interrupt me when I have a point. God, now I forgot. Okay. When guys come up to you, and they're like, I have a problem, this, that, the other thing. Typically, what they want is they want the person they're asking to come up with a solution, even if they can't help themselves, you know? They'll have ideas for a solution. What am I supposed to be doing here?
My default is, it was for greedy reasons, be it money or relevance.
Okay, I remember now. Whereas for female friendships, a woman will go to another woman typically, unless otherwise specified, and go, I have this problem, X, Y, and Z. And what they're looking for isn't usually... Oh my god, I'm gonna turn off supers if you guys don't...
Part of the problem I feel is many conflate politics and philosophy. They see the ideals they have gathered the same way the religious see how the world must work.
I mean, you're right about that. You are right about that. Policy and philosophy have become entwined. But yeah, no, women friendships will often be characterized by, I have this problem, and the other person will be like, I see you, you're hurt, how can I help you feel better? Do you want a distraction? Male friendships are, I have this problem, and it's like, oh, well, here's some steps you could take to fix the problem. And that isn't a judgment call as to what's better, because different things often need different responses, and sometimes, you know, you don't want somebody to give you a step-by-step guide on how to fix things because you've actually already come up with your own ideas as to how to fix it. You're just feeling really awful and you want to feel better. And sometimes you feel awful and you want to feel better, but you have no solutions and you need solutions. Like, there's different ways to approach things. But typically, those are the kinds of responses you get. And again, politics has gone from masculine, male friendships, bullying each other but seeing each other's point of view and looking for solutions, to sweet talking in front of you and wanting emotional regulation. Like, am I wrong? Like, I feel like people will crucify me for saying that. But I feel like it's a very nuanced, balanced comparison. I feel like there's a place in the world for both mindsets. I mean, that's why both mindsets exist. That's why people function, you know? It's why guys and gals exist the way they do, because there is merit to the mindsets. And you need both to have a functional society. Because having one without the other...
Content creators should be political, but only my brand of politics, because I have based opinions and everyone else has cringe politics. And if an article next week changes my entire worldview, then my previous faves become retroactively cringe.
That's crazy. I love that. I disagree about your labels of male and woman logic, but I understand what you're trying to say. I'm taking your argument with good faith. Yeah, no, I'm not saying this from an expert point of view. I'm kind of just saying this kind of in the same tonality that your wine aunt at the family get together would be talking about things around the cheese tray. It's a very difficult conversation to properly articulate. I best operate and articulate by having comparisons or having metaphors that I can inject into things, because that's the best way that I can understand things. Because if I compare something to something else, then it kind of quantifies easier. And I find that when I talk, I often do that organically. I have a lot of comparisons because it helps get my point across better. Now, of course, this means that sometimes my comparisons get downright absurd, but, you know. Cheese tray, I think you mean cheese platter. Chat, can we cancel Katya over this? Haunty, I love you. Alright. You guys ever hear about the mouse utopia experiment? This is entirely different, by the way. This is nothing to do with anything, but I just thought that it's a very funny thing to think about. The mouse utopia experiment is what happens if we put a bunch of creatures in paradise. Never need to work, never need food, just eternal pleasure. What happens? Nothing to fight over for resources, everything is provided. And they put mice into an enclosed space, and eventually, because there was no resources they needed to fight over, they got complacent, they got lazy, and they lost the desire to reproduce. Like, they still wanted, like, the carnal sexual pleasure, but they didn't want to, like, create more rats. Or more mice. And so a bunch of the softer male rats started displaying homosexual tendencies. And slowly, like, the women were just becoming defunct. I don't know. Fascinates me. And, like, slowly over time, that whole, like, system kind of just collapsed because the mice just stopped reproducing entirely, and they were just gay. And I don't know. I don't think it's a perfect reflection of human society because they're mice. They can't be a perfect reflection. I just thought that it was fascinating. That if you put mice in paradise, they turn gay. So what's happening in America right now? No, because Earth and America aren't paradises. Like, there is a lot of first world pleasures that people get, but there by no means is a paradise, and people really do need to reproduce. People are struggling to survive. I think the politics of the world do not reflect the mouse utopia, because it's not a utopia. I think the world is actually crawling towards more dystopian tendencies. It was way more than that. The mothers who actually tried to rear children had no skills to do that and had near 100% fatality. And a lot of mice simply groomed themselves 24/7 than did anything. Yeah, that too. There's a theory, though, that wasn't so much behavioral change as a demographic change. Mice have super high mortality in nature, so the paradise mice with non-adaptive personalities could survive. Okay, that raises an argument, though. That raises a question, Haunty. Non-adaptive, and then the majority turn homosexual. Why? You know what? I'm not...
Don't put us in paradise, boss, please. I love big titty knife ears too much.
The jokes write themselves, chat. Like, I can't make that joke, but it's a funny one. I mean, we see similar behaviors in orangutan populations. I don't know. I would argue that that gay men are incredibly adaptive. Gay men and butch women, butch lesbian women. The way that the reason I can say that is because immediately my mind goes to prison populations. Like, quite genuinely. If gay men are not adaptive, then they would not survive prison. Straight up. There's all kinds of stereotypes out there. But, no. If gay men were like mice, they would not survive prison. Ocean Platinum card number 29920. I'm Connor, the agent's assigned to you by... I'm Connor, the agent's assigned to you by CyberLife. Can I help you? I mean, he's got a suit. Hold on, guys. Hold on. This guy has got drip. Wait a minute, he's got my drip! Wait! Wait a minute. Bro stole my drip! We look exactly the same! What is this garbage? I'm twinning! But I wear it better because red's the superior color. I don't agree with it, but there's a gay uncle theory where because he doesn't have his own children, he will invest in his nieces and nephews, which is communally adaptive. There's that too. It is sanctioned by the council. Okay. Steal his look to him. Hold on, I'm just gonna skip dialogue. So... And I will say that butch lesbians, you know, when they are politically incentivized, they can be powerhouses for whatever team they decide to go down. They're very sturdy and very scary. And they make excellent farm hands. Typically, lesbians, I find, are very high-skill individuals. Like, quite genuinely, they're very good with handicraft, or very good with their hobbies or whatnot. What they do with their high skill level is entirely up to them. But, baseline, lesbians are very talented. Yo, chest, let's go. Like, I had like a teacher back in the day, back at the academy, who, her whole thing was that she was the physics teacher, not the physics, the science teacher, the one that teaches chemistry, not physics. And she was a very strong butch lesbian, very sturdy, very smart, very, very into chemistry. But she also had like a passion for her dogs. Very good at like handicrafting, hand making the most insanely ornate and elaborate dog toys and food that she would sell off on the side. And she was very good at what she did, and she cared an awful lot. Narissa the Archivist. A person doesn't have to be defined by their political affiliation or their belief system, unless they decide that that's how they want to be defined. Most regular people can find contentment in their life with what they put out there, you know? Chemistry is just applied physics. True. Their political belief is a metric you can use to assist in defining them, just like their favorite color. Pretty much. Pretty much. But these days, even having a color can be political. Now, judging people by the content of their character is difficult because people define content of character differently than they used to. The content of their character used to be what they publicly put out into the world and what they produced and how they responded to things. Now, it feels like content of character is entirely defined by a strict box of what party do you play?
We get it, boss. You really like butch lesbians. It's cool. We won't judge you. Too much anyway.
Look, I'm just trying to talk about, like, examples that I actually know, right? Like, I don't want to talk out my ass from, like, conjecture from other people. I don't know a ton of different people out there. I feel like everybody knows at least one. No. We live in a world where character is monetized. Thus, it's hard to know the true content of character and what's just a false persona put on for profit. That is true. That is true. I will say, you really don't know anything about your favorite VTubers. You can, like, hazard a guess by the content they put out there, but even the content they put out there could be fake, right? Like, it could be entirely a persona created and driven for clicks. Maybe a person really is as insane as they put out in the world, or maybe they're just putting on airs and they're really moderate, or maybe they're really, like, actually the opposite of what they, like, put out there. But you would never know unless they told you or something displayed otherwise. The good old she's a grifter defense. But there's the thing. Not every politically incentivized VTuber out there or content creator is a grifter. Some people do genuinely actually feel that way to that intensity. It's only if only a grift if the person is faking the belief. I feel like people have watered down the term grifter to mean entirely somebody who's doing something for money. And not doing something for money in a deceptive way. Because there is a difference. If you believe in what you're doing 100% and you're monetizing it, that's a whole different ball game than doing something entirely for profit but not believing an iota of it.
Well, you seem real to me. The only airs you put on is you pretending to not like us sometimes _Sable.
Not pretending to not like you. I hate you. What are you talking about? That is entirely honest. I want nothing but your death and defenestration. But in the political space in VTubing, I think the only real grifters, in the truest sense of the word, that I've ever seen would be probably the micro group that dissolved VTards. Like, the red Hatsune Miku that was dressed up as Hitler, who had a voice changer to sound like an anime girl, who ended up being revealed to be a Jewish man. That's a grift. That's 1000% a grift. I don't know how closely he actually is tied to those political affiliations, but, like, for all intents and purposes, he was playing an obtuse character that was the exact opposite of his reality, and being very mocking about it for an attempt of relevancy and for some money. And as far as I know, it wasn't even like he had the voice changer because he was trans or anything like that. No, like, straight up, this was just a guy who wanted to make people believe that he was a woman pretending to be Hitler. I don't know. It was a very strange time on Twitter when that happened. And you know what? You know what I think? I think VChuds is going down the same route. I think they changed their name overnight, but there's like a VTuber group that's opened auditions called VChuds. And their whole goofy shtick is that everybody who applies is such a... I genuinely don't think... Like, I think that the creator doesn't actually know what the word chud is supposed to mean. because he said that, like, anybody can apply because anybody can be a chud. It's like, I mean, by definition, you have to be a chud to be a chud. I don't think you know what chud means. And, you know, I think it was explained to him what a chud is, because in under 24 hours he changed the name to V Freaks. Oh, hey guys, look, it's where you live. Look at that. Got your little cage. No, like, my experience with VTuber microgroups is interesting. Because during my time in the space, I've had the experience of many VTuber microgroups or friend groups that have banded together under a label, and like 90% of the time, they dissolve in a couple of months, if that. And before they even dissolve, they're only ever really active or intense for about 2 weeks before everybody gets bored and it falls off. Everybody wants to be Vichibon, but nobody understands the amount of dedication and intensity that it takes to become Vichibon. And it doesn't matter if you have one person that steps up. Then you're just stuck with one poor person that steps up.
I want you to know that you are one of my favorite chuds and I love you.
Thanks! I talked to the dude who ran it. He knew. He just thought it was water drowned enough that he wouldn't get 4chan people for some reason. He avoided using the chud jack because of that. Oh, well then he's literally just stupid. No, literally, then he's just stupid. Like, yes, the meaning of words can change, but, like, you shouldn't be, like, surprised Pikachu face if you use a word and the people who relate to it show up. Right? Like, people use that word as an aggressive label and marker for a reason, right? Like, self-identifying as a chud is still not, like, cute and quirky. It's cringe as all hell. I don't know. Like, I think, like, the failed V Shoujo gen, the one that never debuted, the one that calls themselves Beasties, I think they could be, like, a successful indie crew, right? If they're all dedicated enough and they're all intense enough. And I think because they're all, like, long-time content creators with a substantial enough following, they could actually successfully pull it off. But anything less than that level of intensity almost never gets off the ground. And so V-Chuds, V-Freaks, all of that, they just never work. Like, there was a VTuber group called VT Rainbow back in the day that, again, it started off with good intentions and it entirely dissolved. Oh, that's right, I can swim. Let me put it this way. If somebody calls themselves a chud, then they're not a chud. If they're calling themselves a chud, it's a performative label. Kind of like how real girl failures will never call themselves a girl failure. You know why? Because real girl failures are very embarrassed by their own existence. They're ashamed of themselves. They're miserable. They have a huge ego, but, like, they're also, like, so entrenched in self-loathing and self-destruction, they wouldn't shine a light on that as if it was a badge or a symbol of pride. Right? Other people can call them girl failures, kind of like how other people can label some VTubers as mommy VTubers. But if you call yourself the mommy VTuber and you're not a real mother, it's an obnoxious label that means nothing. And if anything, it just makes it blatantly transparent what crowd you want. I think that is a good example of grifting. Cha-Cha's an actual mom. Yeah. Yeah. But, like, I saw... Oh, there's VTubers that debut, and they haven't even had a single stream yet, and their taglines on Twitter or in their descriptions, they'll say, Dommy, mommy, mama, meh, 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 meh. And it's just like, no, how did you earn the label of mommy, huh? How did you earn it? Did you? Did you earn that? Did your community give you that title? No. You don't have a community yet. So don't call yourself that, you irritating piece of shit. It's a title that's bestowed upon you by the people that observe you. Kind of like chud or girl failure. And these are never like blatantly positive things. These are just like objective labels. I mean, if someone is going for a character, is it grifting or playing a role? You can play a character without grifting. Like, you can play a girl failure character or a motherly character without grifting. Again, like, those two aren't mutually exclusive. Calling yourself a girl failure VTuber just makes you the most irritating and transparent piece of crap on the planet. It doesn't make you the girl failure character. Did that one girl from Watamote more than once ever say, I'm a girl failure? And did she ever say it to other people? Or was it ever only said in self-loathing to herself in her room one time? And by her actions, did people bestow that title upon her? I would say that she is a good example of girl failure because she never outright told the audience. It wasn't bad writing, right? If you want to be seen as a character like that, then just show, don't tell, prove it. Again, it's like bad writing. If you want to be seen as the motherly, dummy, mommy, whatever, yuck, right? Prove it. Act motherly. Have the warm voice. Appeal to the crowd that would want that. Maybe hide it in your meta tags if you really want to get targeted, you know, whatever. But calling yourself it automatically makes me hate you.
The part of an older woman blindsided by how much that younger people are into her.
People thinking of themselves as failures is not a good mindset for a person. But certainly a girl wouldn't advertise that, just like you said, pretty much. Ooh, I'm such a girl failure. I'm taking my 2 weeks for a vacation with my boyfriend. See you next month. Ah. Ugh. I think there's a place for quote-unquote girl failure characters and VTubers as a whole. Both genuine and character acted. Like, genuine and fake girl failures have a place in the space. But screwing around with people's emotions and doing it in a pathetic way. Guys, should we be gem posting, mineral posting, or botany posting? I think we're gonna do mineral posting, because then I can unlock alchemy and smelting. Oh wait, no. Wait, these are different. Ah, we can do gem crafting, weaving, alchemy, smelting. Boys, we're smelt posting. Man, I'm so smelty. How gemmy. Botany for kayfabe, poison, rose, lotus. Excuse you. I live in a silver mine. All of this is good. All of this is kosher. And I don't need alchemy training. I've already got it. Did I hear a rock and stone? Rock and stone! Mastery. Ultra fast smithing. Yes. I love my dwarven brethren. Well, I mean, they're not my brethren, but to me, okay, the Bamar mystery metal, the Bamar radiant stone, flying filter, machining. We're gonna start with machining. And we're also gonna start with mystery metal. And, fine forged stone. Sweet. Can I pick more than one? Okay, we got smelting. Let's also do mineralogy. Can I just unlock all of these? It's funny that racist people can get along with each other regardless of race because of mutual hate. Racists are the most inclusive genre of people. It's crazy. What's Bubble of Lies? Do you have a moment right now? Yeah, what is it? And take a look over there. The folks have been arguing for quite a while, but it's not something you'll understand. Why don't you listen for a bit? Alright. Eavesdropping quest. Yeah, I don't care. Just give me the quest. Guys who drink together, they say things which expose mutual vulnerability because things they say casually get them nuked from orbit by social media. I will say, nothing is more powerful a force than giving somebody a loaded gun and then them giving you a loaded gun in return. Because if you're both pointing at each other, like, pointing at each other's backs, typically, through, you know, mutually assured destruction, neither people spill. And so you can forge some strong friendships that way. However, you gotta be careful who you decide to trust in that aspect because, I mean, just as much risk, you know? Strange way to forge friendships. It's less about initial forging of friendships and more about the reinforcing of friendships. Now, as the CEO of blackmail, because I'm in Chiron, I have the dirt on everybody. You know, I know everybody's skeletons. It's quite something. You'd be quite shocked about what you learn over the years in the VTuber space. But yeah. It's strange thinking about the people that there are some genuine grifters out there. The people that say one thing but mean another or think another. People whose entire careers would go up in smoke overnight. And it's not the people that you think it is. It's like the people you would least expect. Which sounds vague, like, oh, CEO of vague posting, but I really can't say much more than that. It truly is like a, it is what it is moment. I guess we're in the ancient city of Vale.
My favorite example of a nuke going off in the VTuber space was VSTEM. They were all awful, but wow, one more than the others.
Can't believe Watame would do this. Lamau. How long can someone grift before they start to believe and act on it? Depends on the emotional and mental strength of the person. Some people only last like a little while before they really believe what they're doing, you know? But some people can be committed to the bit for their whole lives. Like, some people grift indefinitely, and they can do it as second nature because they're natural-born liars. And some people are so overcome by guilt in what they're saying and doing that they can't stand themselves and they crack. Right? That's the difference between a stupid grifter and a smart grifter. A stupid grifter can't do it for long. A smart grifter can last forever. That's why I say you wouldn't believe who is grifting out there, because the smart ones are the ones that get away with it for a long period of time, and they're very good at it. The stupid ones end up, like, dissolving and collapsing and being very obvious. But also, it's why I believe that, while there are some grifters in the space, and very good grifters, a lot more people are honest than you would initially assume. And some people just really are extreme. I would say the people that are taking more aggressive, tenuous positions in the space are actually honest with what they believe, because it takes a lot of danger to themselves to come out and do that. And why waste the time and the energy for something that might not even pan out? Because there's never any guarantee that being edgy or being over the top will actually bear fruit. And if anything, it just puts you in a weakened position, both politically and socially. So I'd say those that cause themselves real trouble, and seem to be very genuine about it, are more often than not being like 80% honest with how they are. I'd say the real grifters are the ones that safely virtue signal. The ones that may or may not say something edgy that people disagree with, but never get too close to the sun. If you fully believe in something, are you still a grifter? Well, by definition, grifting is doing something you don't believe in entirely for the money, right? It's to falsify, you know? If you believe in it, it doesn't matter if you're making money off it or not, right? you by definition cannot grift if you believe in what you're doing. Hello, Katya. Hello, Necro. The false virtue signaling is obvious. I mean, yes and no. Because some people actually are good enough at the virtue signal where it doesn't feel like a virtue signal. That makes sense? How do I float?
Hey.
Ooh.
You. Hey. You.
You better be political or I'm gonna ante you. What about uncle me? Huh? You gonna uncle me? Plus, some aren't grifting as much as keeping some parts of themselves out of their content. I know one who people think is so chaotic, but she's much more controlled and smart backstage. There's all kinds of people. Uncle is my safe word, that'd be weird. What do you mean it's your safe word?
Hey.
Bro, what the fuck?
You.
Honestly, I haven't been paying attention to the plot of Blue Protocol in the slightest. Like, I don't even know what's going on anymore. I'm kind of just floating around the world. You're already unking me? Don't unk me! I think a lot of Twitch VTubers are normal streamers grifting off VTubing. That I can agree with. They don't believe in or understand the appeal of VTubing. They're just doing it because they think it'll make them money. That's a grift. Since when do open worlds have plot? You can risk having a plot when the player can go wherever he wants, non-literally. I like plots because then I can follow a story. Yeah, grift doesn't have to be political. Grift can be as simple as, I don't believe in what I'm doing and I think it's a waste of my life, but I'm gonna do it because I think it's popular. I love VTubing. I love it a lot.
Hey.
VTubing is such an important medium for me. And
You. Hey.
it does hurt to see that there's such a huge wave of disrespect. Uncle Mo Art. What are you even talking about? So what happened with last stream? Nothing happened with last stream. It was a collab on someone else's channel. Initially, I was going to stream my POV, but instead I was like, okay, let's make this a waiting room and let's raid it into theirs, because I don't have the ability to properly stream it on my end. I literally, in the title of the last stream, said that it was the waiting room. The girl streams full-on Moe, Kyun, and then in private rants about how she hates her cringe weeb audience and nothing but contemporary audience. Stream Doko. You know, I played Blue Protocol with the Adventure Twins, dual leveling. Still salty about the enshittification of my old Oshi. Oh, who's your old Oshi? I'm sorry that they got enshittified. I don't know. You know what I like? I don't think it's possible for most of the super kawaii moe cute VTubers out there to be 100% that energy all the time. I do think that a ton of it is a performance and they're playing a character. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. As long as they actually, like, enjoy and care about what they're doing. Them putting on that character is only, like, a grift if they're, like, mean. You know? If they're like, oh, I hate this. Man, this is stupid. My audience is so stupid for caring about this kind of thing. They're all pedophile idiots. Because only a pedophile idiot with, like, a kawaii character VTuber. No. I think that sucks. And there is a lot of that. A lot of cute VTubers. A lot of... I will say... I have met a few lolly show VTubers that really don't like lolly show. They hate it. But they think it'll make them a ton of money. And so they insist on pandering to the audience. Like, it's quite something. Because they don't need to do that. And if anything, I think that they're worse than the people that they dislike. Why play a character that you don't agree with, right? Why play a character that you dislike entirely? What a waste of everyone's life and time. Why make an audience that you can't stand? Why generate an audience that you hate? Because the value of an audience is that you find people that you can have a conversation with.
How much time and money should you spend to figure out if you like tubing? Should someone bother planning a huge debut if they never streamed before?
That's an interesting question, actually, and I plan to have a whole stream dedicated to it. Hold on. I'm talking with management, seeing if they can help me figure out what is and isn't acceptable to talk about in that regard, but I actually think that this is a good conversation. I would say if you are not making money actively, if you have no source of income, to not pour lots of money into it. No. I'd say cap yourself out at $100 USD, give or take, for everything altogether, but only if you really want to spend money. There are free ways to VTube. At the end of the day, a big misunderstanding that people have with VTubing is reliant on the roleplay character aspect and the community and the friendship aspect of VTubing, and people seem to forget or gloss over the content creator part. They forget that it is a method of content creation. And the reason it exists is to develop content. And you are ultimately becoming a streamer or a YouTuber with a different skin. Most people get into VTubing think that they're getting into VTubing. And they see it as a method of peer-to-peer communication. And so when they come across VTubers that are actually acting like content creators and they're using their platform to, well, make YouTube videos or stream, they often find themselves up against a wall where they get frustrated because, well, I wanted to spend time with this VTuber who's my friend. I'm having a bunch of fun, but they're so busy recording. They're so busy doing this. They never have time for me. They're too busy being content pilled. Well, that was the point of VTubing, is to help with content. I don't know, just... As a hobby, spend only what you're willing to never make back. Like, I'm so serious. Like any other hobby. Like, if you want to invest money in building Gunpla, you're not going to assume you're going to make money off the Gunpla. So whatever you would justify in doing that, right? Or let's say you collect little ceramic figurines of little clowns that you put on a shelf as a hobby. You're not assuming that you're going to be making money off of those figurines. You just want them on your shelf. So I would say to you, if you've never done VTubing before, but you like the idea as a hobby, That is your budget. Ceramic clown figurines. And that way, if you end up finding it's not for you, then you've only blown your hobby budget. You've only blown your coffee budget. Like, I personally love VTubing as content creation, but I also love VTubing as a hobby. Like, VP is very freeing because it allows me to both do it for content creation and as a hobby. Variance lets me explore the world of, you know, Feyres, but it also lets me explore the real world. The real earthen world. Feyres is also real, but I mean, like, I'm trying to explain this in a method that you can understand. Like, I have hobbyist VTubers. Like, I'm so deadass. I'm so serious. I have hobbyist characters that I use for roleplay for fun. That's my ceramic clown budget. It's not a huge budget, but I just love doing it so much. It's what I do all day, every day. I make content, and then when I want to wind down, I VTube. I've grown older now, and I look at those figures on my shelf, and I think, this is hundreds of dollars on my shelf doing nothing, and I've been more focused on spending what is practical than frivolous. Exactly, Val. But, like, that's why I'm saying, that's, if you're new and you've never done it before, this is the kind of mindset you have to think about. Because it's like, well, if you're not going to treat VTubing like a job, you have to treat it like a hobby. And if you treat it like a hobby, you have to understand that how other people treat you isn't a personal attack. Because other people do treat it like work, because it is work. You can probably do VTubing without spending a dime. Exactly. Kind of like how you can do all the other hobbies out in the world without spending a lot of money. But this person specifically was asking about... Hold on, what were you asking about? You were asking about... Let me pull up that super. How much time and money should you spend to figure out if you like VTubing? And should somebody bother planning a huge debut if they've never streamed before? Again, I think the amount of money that a person should be allowed to spend is entirely reflective on both what is reasonable for them to waste and blow on a hobby and how seriously they want to take it. If you've made content before and you want to use VTubing for content creation, but you're not sure if you like it, I would say up your budget a bit. But ultimately, if you don't have resources, you can do everything and anything on a shoestring budget.
Ceramic clown room in Katya's office.
Hey, you stay away from my ceramic clowns, okay? I spent good money on those. But a huge debut. It kind of hurts to see how VTubers completely burn the hobby part of VTubing and any real passion they had for it, instead going full wumbo on the content creation side. Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's bad to go full wumbo. I think that ultimately that's the point of VTubing, was the content creation side of things. I actually think the hobbyist side of VTubing, it isn't secondary, but it kind of goes hand in hand with it. Some people just can't do full-time VTubing. Like, some people can't do it as a career, so there has to be hobbyists. I would say spend the minimal amount that you are willing to lose and never get back. Learn if you like it. And if you like it, and you can see yourself doing it for more than 6 months, then plan a debut. But if you find yourself getting exhausted and resentful and unable to connect with your micro audience, or that you really have nothing that you want to say or put out there, then it's not worth spending on a debut. And debuts are overblown anyway, and the point of debuts are more or less to introduce you to an audience that doesn't already know you. For corpos, I feel like debuts are more important, but for indies, I'd say they're only good if you have an established audience, which is like counterintuitive because it's like, well, I'm brand new and I want people to, you know, come to my debut because that'll make me grow and explode and whatever. No. Debuts are only good for indies if people actually already know who you are and you want to be pushed out to a wider audience. And the benefit of it is more so like a celebration of you in an official sense. I would say unofficial debuts, where you're just starting for the first time, are better, you know? If you want to make it special, go ahead, but there's no point in blowing money on something that ultimately has no use for you. Indies do re-debuts with a new model and then have the audience who shill it for you. I mean, yeah, there's that. I personally, recently, have gotten 3 people into hobbyist VTubing. And to set them up with a model and overlays and assets and get them plans for the stuff they want to create, I have spent maybe $200 per person. And that's for a high quality model off booth. That's like multi-use but nobody else is using. And if you want to get an expensive like one of one that nobody else has, I mean, there's ways to do that. Although then you're looking at the $1,000, $2,000 range for a thing that you own entirely in solo. And that's if you don't want it custom, right? If you want something custom, there are ways to do that on a shoestring budget. And even then, now there's like really good pre-mades out there that you can customize. Like customizable pre-mades. Being a VTuber is cheaper now than it ever has been, and more accessible. Ultimately, why VTuber over Facecam? Do you want to be a VTuber because the idea of VTubing is just fun? Or do you have something that you want to say? Do you have someone that you want to be? Is there a reason you want to be a character over anything else? Is it just the roleplay aspect? That's a valid reason. It's a fun reason. Or do you have something that you want to tell an audience? Do you have something that you feel is valuable, opinionated-wise? Something you want to share? Because if that's the case, why VTuber over Facecam? And if it's privacy, or it's because you want to get your opinion out there, but you want to do it as the character, or maybe you're just more comfortable with it in that sense, excellent. But if it's, I'm VTubing because I like VTubing, don't do it. Straight up. VTubing is secondary to what you're actually doing. The benefit of VTubing is that it's actually adjacent to the real reason you're doing things. It's adjacent to the roleplay, it's adjacent to the opinions, it's adjacent to the artwork you create, it's adjacent to the music you produce. Like, you want to be a music producer, but you want to use a VTuber to do that? Hell yeah, that's a great reason to do VTubing and to get into it. Because characters are fun. You want to be a voice actor, but you want to voice act a specific character and you want to show it off on stream? Great reason to VTube. You want to be a commentator, but you want to be a commentator with a funny hat and that can morph their body whenever they're surprised? Perfect reason to be a VTuber. But you want to be a VTuber because you think that it'll make you popular? Or you want to be a VTuber because you think anime creatures are more interesting to people than non-anime creatures? You're doing it for the wrong reason. You want to have a big debut because you think it'll make people see you and generate hype? You're debuting for the wrong reason. You're getting expensive assets because you think... Oh, one second. Let me kill this bozo. Getting expensive assets because you think it'll get more eyes on you? You're getting expensive assets for the wrong reason. I had to tell a friend this recently, but they were considering getting a bunch of really expensive assets to re-debut with. But their content is scattered, and they don't post much. They stream pretty regularly, but they have a hard time promoting themselves. And overall, they're frustrated and they don't know what to do. So they're like, well, if I re-debut with new assets, people will now see me and they will come and watch my stuff. And it's like, if they weren't watching your stuff before, they may peek in at the debut, but you're gonna have low numbers regardless, and nobody's going to stay, and you're going to just waste your money. You're not... Like, if you want to get the asset because you think it'll help you create better content, that's a great reason to get an expensive model, right? A great reason to get new overlays and assets. If you think it can better represent you and what you're doing, then absolutely pour money into it and have a good time. But if your only reason is that you think it'll draw more people in, your only reason is that you think it's just more appealing, then you've lost. If it's not an accurate representation of what you are and you're not making your best stuff when you have a subpar tool, then it doesn't matter how good your tool is if you're still making subpar stuff, because people may give you a curious glance because you look shiny. But if you offer them nothing of substance, they're not going to stick around because they're bored. Being a VTuber has a base layer of identity protection to it, even though VTuber fans are crazy and will always find a way. I live and die by the principle of never say anything that you wouldn't be willing to defend in a fight in real life. Right? And anonymity online is a lie. It's a myth. There's no such thing. Any really, really dedicated person, it doesn't matter how smart they are. If they have an iPad, they can find out everything about you. It doesn't matter how protective you are about your identity. A dox is just half a dedicated person's afternoon away. So never say anything that you wouldn't be willing to discuss in a coffee shop. And you know what? Some people can discuss some very crazy things in a coffee shop. I, for one, can discuss some very intense things. And... you know, maybe not get away with what I'm saying, but, you know, at the very least be willing to have the dialogue in public about it. Don't be like me who went to VTubing just to fit the crowd I was surrounded by at the time. It was a big mistake that I regret every day. Well... it's about an evolving mindset. People start for all sorts of reasons, but the successful ones are the ones that stick around because they found a reason to, you know, keep going. When I started VTubing all those years ago, I wanted to show a place where I could talk to people about things that I couldn't necessarily find like-minded individuals with the same mindset. Here in Chiron, it's hard to find people in the lower nobility that are willing to discuss the things that I like to talk about, much less share an interest in things that I like. So, initially, VTubing was very much a social thing for me. And when I had my rude awakening that it wasn't social for everyone and that a lot of people were doing it professionally and treating it like a job, there were two ways that I could have diverged. I could have gotten disenchanted and been like, well, all my friends hate me and nobody wants to talk to me. They're all so busy being so self-important. Or it could be, well, when they're done, you know, with their work, they still choose at the end of the day to talk to me once in a while. And that's pretty cool because they don't have to. because this is their job and my hobby, right? I made a lot of hobbyist friends, and I spent a lot of time with them. And then when I went professional, I found myself spending more time with the professional friends because we talk about it like it's a job. A lot of the people that end up dropping this as a hobby do it because they don't mitigate or evolve their expectations. My Oshi, who I considered a friend, ended stabbing me in the back to look better in front of their peers. Lessons were learned from that experience. That is highly unfortunate. Also, do remember that there are just bitches in this community, you know? And that fortune typically favors the bold, but the bold doesn't necessarily mean the kind. The bold means those who are willing to do what's necessary to get in front of people. Some people are willing to do more, and some people don't have to do more, you know? Some people just naturally have enough charisma to get in front of people, and others are boring, obnoxious individuals that have to rely on torturing others to get in front of eyes.
Hey. You.
There's no woman on the internet, you know that, Lamau.
Hey.
I think something I recommend is, instead of getting into VTubing, get into a hobby you'd want to share, like video editing, music compositing, public speaking, etc. Perfect! I think that's the best way to look at things, honestly. VTubing is a tool, at the end of the day. And a tool is as powerful as your use. And if, let's say, you want to get into carpentry, but you don't want to learn, you don't want to create anything with wood, then you can be the best carpenter in the land, but if you're not touching wood and building benches, who cares? Right? Nobody's going to buy anything from a carpenter that doesn't have a display of wood in front of him. You know, it doesn't have a beautiful chair that he's made. It doesn't have proof of mahogany tables that he's delicately carved. Like, if you wouldn't be doing stuff on YouTube anyway if it were not for, like, the lack of appeal of being a flesh thing, then VTubing just won't last for you. I think if one of the few reasons I would get into VTubing is I have an excuse to draw and practice my communication skills, because we all know my English isn't the best. I think that would be a perfect thing for a hobbyist VTuber. Straight up, like, you want to practice a new language? I know so many JP VTubers that got into VTubing because they wanted to learn English. Right? Like JPEN. And I know a lot of EN VTubers that are practicing their Japanese in the JP space. Actually, specifically, I know quite a few English VTubers that are learning Chinese, and they're streaming on Bilibili, right? And they're using that kind of as, like, their lesson. I would say don't resent the professional for behaving like it's a job, and don't lift your nose at the hobbyist because they don't put in the same level of effort the professional does. They hit a Chinese point in their life. Yeah! Kinda, yeah. I'm in a very Chinese part of my life. One day I would aspire to be the VTuber equivalent of Lindy Beige, just making silly little videos on incredibly niche interests and subjects just to get over my fear of sharing said interests. Yeah, go for it. I would highly recommend it. And like every other hobby out there, don't put more money in than you're willing to lose. It's like day trading on the stock market or investing in precious metals. If you're not willing to never see that money again, never do anything. But if you're willing to look at the money and go, you're probably never coming back to me, then you can do whatever you want with few regrets, you know? Should I buy gold? Now that's an interesting subject, because gold just hit $5,000 after years of being like 1,000, you know? I would say it's not too late to get into gold, but it's a very difficult thing to get into gold now, because it is becoming inaccessible for the lower middle and the middle class to be able to afford an ounce of gold. I think gold is still going to go up, so you will still get a return on investment and you'll still make money, but it's less worth it to get into it now than it was 5 years ago. I'd say it's easier to get into silver and just as rewarding. Well, not just as rewarding. It's rewarding enough. And I'd say that it's partially because of, actually, the Chinese. A lot of places, a lot of producers are using these precious metals in their hardware, in their production line, and because of AI. Like, the AI data centers are using these minerals in the production of their data centers. So all of a sudden, their value is skyrocketing because it's a lot harder to get these precious metals, and they're all being used up. They're being, like, consumed. So, yes, always invest in precious metals, but right now, if you aren't already in it, it'll be a bit difficult. I personally have some investments in gold and silver, but every day I look at the market and I regret not investing more when I had less, you know? Well, when I had less, you know, just earlier. Because if I invested more earlier, then I would have real money right now, you know? And now I just have to steal from people at the casino. I've heard silver is good to go right now. Again, I want you to realize that anything that you guys hear about precious metals or the stock market from the position of people that aren't already invested in it, you are hearing the dying thralls and the end days of a market, and that you should not trust entirely what you hear, because you are hearing what the investors want you to hear. You are hearing what people who are already winning want you to hear, and so you need to take what you're hearing with a grain of salt. Because let me put it this way, if somebody is telling you, you need to invest now, you need to invest, that probably means that the market is about to crash and you're about to lose everything, because they want you to invest so they can make as much money as possible. And if somebody is telling you, don't invest, it's probably because they themselves are investing a lot, and if you invest, then you're going to screw with their potential growth. So pick and choose who you believe, and come up with your own conclusions based on looking at numbers yourself. Like, genuinely, if you really want to trust the opinion of somebody else, go for it. If you think that they have formed an opinion that is very solid and based, but never, ever, ever trust a person whose entire social media is about trading and stocks and investment in gold. Because, yeah, you'd think that they're, like, the expert, right? And they are. But they're manipulating you so that they can remain the expert and so that they can make the most money. Whereas normal people who are investing are more likely to have better nuanced opinions that you can trust. But also, if investment advice has hit mainstream, more likely than not it's because of investment influencers. Don't be somebody else's exit liquidity, pretty much. We're berry picking. Do the opposite. Got it. No, be wise. Okay? Don't just jump to be like, oh, well, do the opposite of anything that everyone ever says. If you want to invest in gold, don't go to YouTube. If you want to invest in gold, go to Kitco, the gold trading website, and look at the price of gold. Compare the price of gold over the last 10 years. Look at the price of gold over the last 50 years. And notice the pattern of how things move. Then come to conclusions on your own. If things are moving up and down, if those squiggly lines in the charts are looking a little too close for comfort, it may be a bad time, because you may accidentally hit a severe dip. However, if the squiggly lines look like they're in the middle of a pattern, it's more likely safe than not. However, you also need to then look, well, what was the state of the world when those squiggly lines were happening? Look at the years, look at the dates, look at the times. Was there a big war happening? Was, the financial market crashing? You know, was there a big swing in technology? If the answer for any of these is yes, take a look at where it lands on the chart. And if those things are happening right now, and it lines up with what the chart looks like, you can make some educated guesses. I would say on the period of time you want that money, I would say. Buy high and sell low. Shut up! I just lost everything. Good for you. Alright. Hello, beloved Katya, please check my life savings. Hello, Sil. I'm just telling people not to fall for scams, and if they're going to invest in precious metals, that they only need to be able to blame themselves. They need to earn their successes and their failures, and not be a victim of someone else. I invested in Katya coins and I'm 20 seconds away from rug pulling a bunch of people. That's crazy! Yeah, I'll never do a crypto coin. That doesn't appeal to me. What if I want to gamble? I mean, invest in the casino. Well, then I'm happy, because then I can spend more money on gold. Imagine Katya coin. Yo, chat, can we have somebody design a Katya coin? That'd be funny. Just remember that stocks and investing is just gambling. Yeah, basically, it's like horse racing. Pretty much, like 100%. People who are career day traders are just professional gamblers. Remember the VTuber models that were sold as NFTs? Oh my god, I remember that. A Sable coin is a stable coin, everyone! Invest in the only stable coin, Sable coin! Don't clip that. I don't do crypto. Wait, that was a thing? Yeah, Val, that was a thing. Buy, sell. Yeah. Hold on, let me pull up Booth real quick. Booth is a wonderful place, and so is Nizima. Booth and Nizima are wonderful for people that want to get into VTubing. Let me search for one of ones. Hold on. Live 2D. Now, you may recognize... Hold on, let me just sign out of my booth for a second. Lamau. And let me... spell... And let's pull up Nizima. Because we were talking about, you know, also all manner of things to log out of Nizima. If we just change gears for a second. This is a good market. Good setup. If you want to do like high quality VTubing, but you want to do like, let's say live 2D VTubing. I personally, when I start, I like 3D. 3D is like my favorite kind of VTubing because it's more versatile. But if you want to get into like high quality live 2D VTubing, a good place to go is the Japanese market. And the Japanese market is places like Nizima and Booth. And you can get all sorts of things here. Like, let's go live 2D. You'll see a lot of, like, multiple use VTuber models, like this one, for example. Multiple people can buy it. And it's about... This one is about 20 bucks. I think. Oh no, it's even cheaper. How much is 200 JPY? Hold on. $200 JPY to... There's no way that's only $2. That's $2? Right, well, a lot of these you can get with, like, commercial rights. The only downside is that you'll share a face with somebody, right? But you can, like, sell merch. They've got 1 billion toggles. They're high quality. Sometimes you'll find a gem that nobody has used before. Or you'll find a really good customizable one where you can make something that doesn't look like other people's. Like, hold on. Y'all want to be tung 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 sahur? Now, what's interesting is the one-of-one models. Now, these ones are typically $1,000, but you have exclusive rights to them. And nobody else in the world gets to use it. Like, this one. Straight up looks like... Well, I personally think this is kind of like HoloLive quality. I think she's so cute. If you want to blow money on a hobby, then one-of-ones work. If you don't want to blow money, but you want to test out the waters... I'm gonna say it. That's not a lolly. They called this one a lolly. This isn't a lolly. I mean, when they shrink her like that, she is, but she's not a lolly. And there's all kinds. And this way you can, like, save time and money, and if you really like it, you know, you can get something more custom and expensive down the line. Nizima is nice because you can actually test the tracking on the website itself. And there's 1 billion different things. And you know what? If you're not a creative person and you don't know what you want to do or what you want to be, or you have a vague idea of what you like, you don't have to go through the big, painful, long design process. And sometimes a lot of these models come with, like, ref sheets or with bonus little emotes or emojis and design sheets and whatnot. Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous. Like, hold on, I was looking the other day at one VTuber models, and there are ones out there that are like the whole package. They have like, they have overlays and backgrounds, and $1,000 is like a lot. Don't get me wrong. But like, if you've done the hobbyist thing, and you still want to do it on the cheap, and you think that like, this is the best way to get my point across, this is how I want to represent myself, and this, I can make good content with this, I can have fun gaming like this, then why not, you know? Street, a lot of the people are using it. Saves you get the Suica custom. It's super easy to get started cheap. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, I'm gonna have a hot take that's gonna piss a lot of people off. I don't like the Suica model. Not in the slightest. Something about it is so uncanny valley to me. Do I hate people for using it? No, not at all. I think people can use whatever they like. And I do think it's high quality. But the art style, I despise it. If I see somebody using it, I just don't watch them.
What if you want to make your own model?
Well, if you want to do like custom models, like there are ways to like commission people for customs and doing it on the cheap. I recommend going to Crepe for that. Because Crepe, you can spend like maybe at most a few $100s and get a high quality live 2D custom. But the downside is that you have to like figure out how to navigate a Korean website. You can use VGen, but VGen is kind of sketchy at best. I've had nothing but problems with VGen for all sorts of things, and Twitter artists are issues. I find to do custom VTubers, often the cheapest and the most high quality models are done by Japanese or Chinese artists. And even then, they're not always the most affordable, but they are the more reliable ones. There's tons of people, tutorials for people who want to draw too, and they can make it from scratch. 100%. Ultimately, if you don't want to like buy and you want to make it, it's pretty affordable. There's a billion tutorials out there. I would stay away from AI generating a model and then cutting and redrawing it, because it's really obvious when people do that. And if you're gonna do that and you're gonna put in the effort to make it not obvious, then what was the point in generating it anyway? You should have just drawn it because you basically drew it over again. I've seen a few AI-generated VTubers, and every single time, again, it's painfully obvious, and it sits in the same uncanny valley and disgust circle for me as the Suica model does. I don't hate people who use those things. I don't hate the Suica model, because you can customize the shit out of it and make it look good. I've even seen people who have retextured it so much it doesn't even look like the Suica model anymore, but like, I don't know, baseline, it's just so uncanny valley for me. And AI-generated models, again, I look at it and I go, how much would you say is a fair price for a fully fledged VTuber visual with the model, emotes, chat, intro, outro, musics, and graphics? Again, it's different for everyone because everyone has a different set of standards and what they need as baseline. Sorry, just got distracted by buzzing from a literal hoot. Like, again, all of this shit can be done for free. There is enough free resources out there. If you want everything fully custom, like 100% custom from literal nobody, what the bare minimum prices out there, it can be done for $1,000 USD. Like, there is worlds where you can do that, but I wouldn't recommend it. Not in the slightest. Even as hobbyist, because you're just going to get frustrated with the lack of usability. There's a reason that a lot of people charge a lot for rigs. A decent rig will elevate even the cheapest of artwork. You can have the ugliest model in the world, objectively, subjectively, whatever, but if you have a rig that works well for it, then you can do wonderful things. If you have the most beautiful artwork in the world, if you have a shitty rig, you may get people in the door, but nobody's going to stick around because visually they're not engaged. There's nothing they can do with you. You're not interesting. You're barely even moving. I would say prioritize in this order: rig quality, then art quality, so that it matches your style that you want. Then overlays, backgrounds, chatting boxes, starting, stopping music. Put all of your budget into the model and rig, literally. Like, I know some very specific people who, over time, they have had backgrounds and overlays, but most of the time they just stream on a black background. And they use the default chat CCS. Or they use free backgrounds or free overlays. Because remember, even though it's your branding, and branding is very important when you're professional, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're not making anything worth watching. And brand cohesion is very nice, but you can be just as cohesive if you have, like, 5 emotes and a black background, and your model in the middle of the screen. It's black, but you've got good motion, you're talking, you're engaging. There's a lot of free background music that you can use that matches perfectly with the vibe you want. You can do it for a minimum $1,000, but I wouldn't recommend it. Most budgets for high quality with the full package is $3,000. And I'm like talking about full custom, by the way. I'm not talking about budget. But you don't have to do that. You can spend $200 and get good stuff. Like, that's not custom. Or you can buy a package for a one of one, you know? For like under 1,000, around 1,000. There is something for everybody that wants to create something, but I don't know, there's no set rule. That's just in my experience, you know? It can be built over time. Or you can be like the peanut guy. Again, he's free. He's 100% free. I don't want to talk about the peanut guy. He's an example of a grifter. I'm gonna be straight up. He was a proper VTuber before for a brief period of time, and then he didn't use it anymore because he doesn't like it. He said it himself. He tried it, he didn't like it, and then he decided to go with the peanut filter. And he kept streaming in VTuber spaces, but was open about his dislike of VTubing and VTubers. Then he won the award, and he made fun of everybody, and he incentivized his community to mock all of us. Like, no. Based? I mean, it would be based if he didn't, like, piss on all of us who are just trying to do our job and enjoy ourselves, you know? Calling out tourists. He's a true definition of tourist. He stopped by to entertain himself. He came here for a vacation, and then when it was done, he made fun of the locals. He was a Twitch plant from the beginning. I don't know if he was a Twitch plant from the beginning, but ultimately at the end, it benefited other platforms to put him above people that actually cared about what they were doing. Yeah, I don't doubt that he has a community that loves him very much. I don't doubt that he's entertaining. He has a huge community for a reason. People don't conglomerate around people they find boring as shit. People have their reasons to be around people, right? He's probably entertaining, and he probably cares about his community. That doesn't mean I have to like him, though. And that doesn't mean that he's not fostering and developing the people into hating people just like us. Such is the life. You guys ready to raid into someone? I think today was overall a good stream. Sorry, by the way, that my streams have been a bit sparse as of late. Things have been perpetually chaotic, as usual. But I think you'll be fascinated to learn that I've been really upping my production with 3D stuff. Why does Pam have like 10 things scheduled? Here, I'll send you the relay that happens in 2 days. Before I pop off, I want to show you what I've been working on. Oh, also, by the way, New Year's Opera O dropping tomorrow if you're playing Uma Musume. Hold on, where is it? I want to show you what I was working on. Hold on. It's a sneak peek. If I can grab it. Am I stupid? Where did I put it? You know what? Fuck it. I'll just go to the group chat and re-download my own pictures. Now, I really like specific cute styles. Da 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 da, opera O, da 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 da, opera O. Oh, there it is. I found it. I'm stupid. So I've been remaking my VR chat models, but also getting some custom outfits that I've been putting on myself for something very silly and special that I'm putting together. Hold on. And the last few days, I've been staying up till like 3 in the morning every day to put something special together for you guys. Hold on. Let me grab it. And I've been making models for my gen mates. And I've been doing a bang-up job, I'll have you know. I know that I've been working on some for them. Now, these are like huge works in progress. These are nowhere near done. But I'm working on one for Miss Leia. And working on one. Hold on. For Miss Ava. Look at that. Aren't they so cool? I think I really popped off with the hair on her. Do you know how fucking difficult it is to make her hair? I'm gonna kill myself. These are just like temporary costumes though. These aren't like permanent ones for them. I just didn't want them naked when I showed them off on screen. My costumes, though, are kind of permanent. I was trying to go for, like, a matching art style so that we all looked like we were in the same anime. And I've got multiple costumes because I'm the best! And I've done a polish and cleanup of the birthday outfit. Ava's hair took me like a bajillion years to do. Alright, enough of that. Let's get out of here. I love working in 3D. I love it so much. And I think you guys are going to have a lot of fun with what I'm cooking. Glad you cleaned up your birthday suit. I don't like how you said that. But yeah, if you're wondering where I've been the last few days, I've been playing with Unity and drawing textures and making 3D models. I'll see you tomorrow for stream!